herself in the privacy of her own vehicle for her own release. She's standing right up on Mr. Herring with a gun in her hand. The witnesses will tell you at some point while she's at the door, she takes a gun off her hip.
I'm back. My internet crapped out before. Sorry.
She's the aggressor. That's what the witnesses are going to tell you. You'll hear all of this because she's still on the phone with 911. Phone's a little further away from the window because it's on the ground. Mr. Herring is trying his best not to get shot at this point. Still no weapon. Still trying to get the gun away from him, away from her, whatever. She's the only one with a weapon. So he is trying to defend himself. And after she shoots him, she picks up the phone with the 911 operator going, ma'am, you are not supposed to follow him. She's going to tell you. The very first thing she said, he hit my car.
I heard the 911 calls.
You will hear her tell you.
They're really confusing.
Why she killed this man. Then she tells the 911 operator, he pulled the trigger on my gun and shot himself. That's the level of audacity you're going to hear. Trying to claim this man would shoot himself. When we believe that the evidence will show through the witnesses, video, photographs will prove otherwise. We expect that you will hear that the law will tell you that doesn't matter to anybody.
This is a very well-spoken prosecutor. She's very passionate.
But he still never has a weapon.
She presents herself well.
Other than, as you will see, maybe trying to get her out of his window.
Hannah, the defendant, looks very scared.
Law enforcement is in the area. In fact, she's still basically on the phone with 911 when they get there. Because, as I just told you, there's a lot of traffic in the area. Cars can't really go anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere fast. So there are other drivers who watch this happen. There are people who are behind the defendant, behind Mr. Herring's car, beside Mr. Herring's car. There are witnesses who watch it. And one of them runs to where he can see that the police are blocking the interstate and comes down there and says, she just shot somebody. Somebody just got shot. Please come down here. And law enforcement gets there. And as soon as they arrive, they ask, who shot? And the defendant says, I did. And is allowed to politely hand over her gun to a police officer. And you'll see some additional audacity of kind of arguing with the witnesses on scene.
And my understanding is that citizens' arrests are outlawed now.
You're going to hear from several of those eyewitnesses who were in that traffic area, who will tell you who they saw armed, who they saw being aggressive, who they saw being violent. And that it was never.
She is very young and she looks very scared.
You'll be able to hear the defendant's own demeanor afterward, because for some bit of time she's still talking to 911. And you'll hear her say, well, I'm okay, or I'm safe, but he ain't. Now he needs paramedics. You'll be able to see after one of the witnesses who happens to be driving by pulls out his cell phone and videos what portion of it that he could capture.
So the man she killed.
Not only will you hear her demeanor, her audacity, what we contend will be her malice, you'll be able to see some of it.
Was apparently driving drunk.
You will see what happens She picks up her phone, tells them he needs paramedics, and just walks off.
She took matters into her own hands.
During this incident at the door, there's a tear to her shirt. So she puts on another shirt, hangs out. The law enforcement gets there. You can hear that there's documentation in the vehicle, consistent.
I appreciate that there's very good audio there.
You're going to see that there's needles in the car. His sister is going to tell you that he was an insulin-dependent diabetic. You're going to hear from the medical examiner, who will tell you that this gunshot was the cause of his death, and that all of his toxicology screens were negative.
Oh.
He was not drinking.
Oh.
He was not on drugs.
Nothing.
Nothing.
My bad. He wasn't on anything.
But we expect that you'll hear some further audacity today regarding trying to say some bad things about Mr. Herring. We expect that you'll hear some claims that Mr. Herring was the aggressor, despite the fact that he was chased down and cornered and unarmed. That you'll hear a request to consider self-defense for this defendant, despite the fact that we expect the evidence will show that she's not defending herself. She's the aggressor. And anything Mr. Herring did would be to try to save his own life, even though he failed. You're also going to hear.
So she's apparently claiming self-defense.
We're just trying to make sure that you have all of the evidence that we have that we can present to you. They attempted to get fingerprints off the gun. You'll see the gun. They weren't able to do so. There's some prints, but they didn't have anything sufficient to match it to. So no match it to any of the prints they believe that they can find on the slide of the gun. You gotta have a big enough surface to leave a fingerprint. So the slide of the gun is what they did. No match. They then swabbed the gun to see, let's see what the DNA is. And the only DNA that they can match to any one person is the defendant's own DNA is on the slide of that gun. Not a shocker, it's her gun. There were at least 3 DNA profiles on the gun. We know one is male, and that's all we know. One's the defendant, 2 additional, 1 is male, and that they could not match the male DNA to Mr. Herring. They couldn't create a match to the other 2 profiles.
So they have DNA.
So we're just going to make sure
they have her DNA.
Evidence that's coming your way, just to make sure that you have the full picture.
Forensic.
You're going to hear multiple 911 calls, 2 from Terry Robinson, 2 from the defendant, and 1 from one of the eyewitnesses. You'll see multiple photographs, body-worn camera of the initial responding officer, to just kind of, when you see kind of the chaos of the scene, how the vehicles are parked.
I'm really interested in seeing what the defense attorney says.
Okay, so I know this is, as we talked about when we were talking about in jury selection some, we thought we were going to be putting up witnesses yesterday. So we have our exhibits numbered well in advance. So I promise you're going to think when we start telling you what exhibit we're tendering that we can't count. I promise that we can. We're just going to have to go in the order that we have to go in, because I've told you there are some professional witnesses. There are some out-of-state witnesses. And we thought we were going to put those people up yesterday. So we start out, we're going to start with number 1. But if we end up jumping to number 12, we promise we can count. So just kind of bear with us, and then we have to go in the order now that we have to go in.
Sometimes I wonder if people need to point out
that we are able to get all of these witnesses
things like this
here before you, so that you can hear the full story of what happened.
The jurors probably don't really care about
on May
that.
7th, 2019. So we appreciate your attention on behalf of Mr. Herring's family. We appreciate your patience, your attention. And at the end of this trial, ADA Nigel Hunter is going to come before you and talk to you about the audacity that you heard, about the malice that you are going to hear, about the felonies that were committed by this defendant with no justification whatsoever. And she will request that you speak the only verdict that tells the truth about what happened to Kenneth Herring on May the 7th of 2019. And that is that this defendant is guilty of malice murder, felony murder,
2019.
aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a
If you're just joining, I'm learning about this case along with you all.
Okay.
We just heard the prosecutor's opening statements. This is Hannah Payne. She's a young lady who witnessed a traffic accident and then called 911 to report the traffic accident and then chased down the person that she perceived to have caused the traffic accident. Other people did say that this person seemed to cause a traffic accident. And then she killed him. And the prosecution is saying that she did this with malice and she was the aggressor and it was unnecessary for her to kill him. And it was she was attempting to do some sort of citizen's arrest. There are multiple 911 calls, people calling, saying that this girl was chasing down the driver, driving erratically to chase him down. So it looks like she was experiencing some, road rage, driving erratically. And, in pursuit, taking justice into her own hands. And obviously, that's why we don't do these things, folks, because this is where she's ended up. I don't know who this man is. It's possibly her father. I don't know. The victim, Mr. Herring, is African American. His family is there. And I don't know. I'm interested in this because it'll be, it's interesting to see what happens when a person decides to take justice into their own hands. It harkens back to the Ahmaud Arbery case, where those two men chased down that young man that they believed to have gone into a house. He was just running. Yeah, malice murder is a big charge for somebody. Hello, Evil Queen. It is a big charge for somebody who was trying to enact a citizen's arrest. But, she did kind of create a scene as well. And I don't know what I'm not a lawyer, so I can't look at all the legal ins and outs of it, but it seems like a big charge. But as I was saying, it kind of reminds me of the Ahmaud Arbery case, where these men perceived, this case is live right now. This is happening as we speak. I just decided to carry it live and kind of watch along, learn along with you. I saw a little bit of it. I saw it yesterday, just some highlights, and I watched some of the 911 calls. I heard her 911 call, and then I heard there was a off-duty police officer on who called in on scene, and he called in a few times. He tried to help. So anyway, in the Ahmaud Arbery case, the men were found guilty because they really chased him down. They perceived that, he was just running in the neighborhood. And I didn't follow that case super closely, but apparently he had gone into like a house that was under construction, and they perceived that to have been trespassing. So they took it upon themselves to chase him down, and they murdered him. And he was unarmed. He didn't do any provocation. Hey Tia, nice to see you. Please hit the like button if you guys will. Yeah, that was, I mean, that seemed racially motivated in that case. I don't think they're trying to claim that this is racially motivated, but it seems to me like this girl just had a oversized sense of entitlement and is very immature, and thought that she would just take it upon herself to take justice into her own hands. And man, like I believe that people have the right to own guns and defend themselves, but man, we should learn if people who are holding guns should understand the laws around it. You know what I mean? They should understand when when it's right to use them and not to use them. They should understand gun safety. I mean, these are deadly weapons. The only reason guns are made is to shoot and kill, right? Or shoot and harm people and or animals or things, right? And we should be trained. I mean, kind of like we are trained. If we're going to operate these things, anybody who's going to operate these things should get some training. We are required to be trained to drive, right? And the car is a deadly weapon. The car can be a deadly weapon. That's not its primary use, but it can be. So we end up in situations like these where a young person has a gun and she gets angry and she chases down somebody who appears to have caused an accident. And it may be that he caused this accident. It may be that he was in the wrong, but it wasn't her job to take justice, and you'll hear, if you follow this case along, that when they play the 911 calls, the off-duty police officer said, "Hey, I would have done more, but I'm not in uniform, so I didn't feel like I could." So he was operating under some restraint. He was using self-restraint. He knew that there was limits to what he could do because he wasn't in uniform. And so, there just seems to be like a severe lack of understanding of the law among citizens and what they have the right to do and not to do, especially with regards to other citizens, and keeping other citizens in line, and how much control we do or do not have over other citizens. And if you're just joining us, just so you know, this is live. It's happening right now. Let me just make sure I'm not behind on it. Oh, I got it here. I'm going to catch up because we're just sitting here watching this.
Yeah, I had to
Here
sit
we,
through
here we go.
here for us to clarify a few things, but we're here. This is what we discussed when we were talking about it, and trying to make sure that y'all had an open mind, a fair mind, and an impartial mind, because there's been a lot of media coverage. There's been a lot of talk about this, and it's finally come to day to put up a shot. And as I talked to y'all earlier, making references,
Put up
when
your
I
shut up, huh?
start a trial or do a jury trial, I try to give something that guides you into keeping your attention into what's going on in the case, and kind of an underlining theme to keep your eyes open. And when I was thinking of this case, of course, the evidence will speak for itself. That's the one thing we'd like to come out is the evidence.
Ooh.
But we also talked about reading between the lines, making inferences, and looking at the veracity of the witnesses, which kind of brought this story to me, basically, of
This is very weak so far.
who was out there learning how to shoot a bow and arrow. And he's out there, and he's got his father over there, and he's trying to learn to shoot that bow and arrow. And as most people start, he's not coming anywhere close to the bullseye or to the target. So he's out there trying left and right. And the neighbor keeps coming up and kind of laughing at him, saying, "Good luck, boy. Try it differently. Try it my way." And the dad says, "No. Stick the course. Do it yourself. Watch. Learn. Listen. You'll never learn anything. You just take somebody else's word for it." So he continues to shoot this bow and arrow, and he's missing, and his dad walks off. And the neighbor says, "One day, son, you want to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow, come on over here. And look at this." And he points. Lo and behold, there's a tree, and it's got an arrow right in the smack middle of a target. And then he looks at another tree, and there's that arrow, boom, right in the middle of the heart of that target, the bullseye. And he sees another one. And that young boy, just like any other kid, looks around, sees his dad's not there. He runs over to the neighbor. He says, "Sir, show me how to do that. I can't hit the bullseye. Can you show me how to do it?"
It looks like the defendant's just confuses everybody about this.
That kid's shaking his head because he really wants to know how to do it. So he walks up on the man. He's in there talking to his friends.
Look at her family looking at each other like, what's he talking about?
Like, you don't want to be able to hit the bullseye all the time. And the man says, "Look, son, I don't have time for you today. Let me just tell you how you do it. I take that bow and arrow, I shoot it into a tree, and then I paint the bullseye around it." And that's what's happening here. We got a situation, and let me, for the record, make it clear. This is a tragic situation. It's a tragic situation because one man has lost his life, and the other person has lost their chance to ever really live a normal life.
He doesn't come across as very
as we go
sincere
through
at
here,
all.
And we see people try to paint a bullseye around an individual, the paint's not going to be there. That's not going to be enough evidence to make it look like a bullseye. It's not even going to be enough evidence to make it look like a target. So when you hear the evidence, and we anticipate the evidence to come out and talk about an accident, not a fender bender, an accident. A truck that runs a red light, nails, not just hits, nails an 18-wheeler. It disables it, puts it to the side. The correctional officer does show up on the scene. He identifies himself as a law authority and a correctional officer, and he's trying to take control of the scene and make sure everything's going on. Unfortunately, like a lot of times in Clayton County, the 911 and the authority doesn't show up in time. People are getting impatient, worried. Is he injured? Is he going to have enough, time for somebody to come and help their injuries? And in the meantime, the individual that caused the accident,
we're like the jury.
Walking around. He's checking out his truck, make sure it's working. He's walking around, a little aggressive, a little faster this time. And on that 911 call,
he comes across as
you're
very
hear the correction officer
disingenuous.
"Sir, get away from that vehicle. That thing's about to blow. It's smoking. You got radiator fluid coming out of it. This thing's not operational. Move away from it." And he turns and he talks to the 911 operator and says, "Man, he's over here he's getting a little crazy. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do." And then you hear him again say, "Sir, get away from that. Don't you leave. Don't you leave." And he turns and starts getting a little bit more excited. And he says, "Son, get a picture of that. Somebody get a picture of that." Finally, Hannah is on the phone with 911, telling them pretty much the same thing. "Man, what? I don't know. This guy's leaving the scene. Get the tag number. Get the tag number." And the correction officer, "Get the tag number. Go. That's what you're going to hear on 911. You're not going to hear anything different. You're going to hear that. You're going to get to decide what was meant when he tells her, go, get that tag. And she's on the phone with 911. And of course, 911 hearing both, can you get the tag? She goes, yes, ma'am, I can. I can get the tag. In a calm voice. Not an excited voice, calm voice. Do we get it? And then there's kind of radio silence. No one's really having much of a discussion because in the end,
Is he trying
makes
to
your justice
excuse
is accomplished. They want to see the tag number to identify who they
vigilante
who caused
justice?
this action, to hold them accountable. And therefore, they say nothing. They just let her get the tag. She starts rattling off the tag. Then all of a sudden, it's like, man, we don't want you to pursue. We want your safety. We want for your safety to stop pursuing and to come back to the scene of the accident. And that's where she says, man, I'm not going to not. I mean, he's already caused one accident. Can I just kind of lay back, scoot back a little bit more, but make sure the authorities know this is the vehicle they're looking for? She says, no, I want you both come back right now. And that's when she pulls in front. And then you will see and you'll hear from witnesses and you'll get to see the video. She didn't ram him. She didn't cut him off. There's enough road out there on Forest Parkway and River Lake. You can move around everywhere. And you will see it was sufficient means to go around. I mean, what the heck? He's already drove away from one accident. But it wasn't an accident because she didn't hit him. He didn't hit her. Now, granted, it might not have been the smartest thing in the world to do, but she's young.
Oh, so
She sits there and listens to authorities. She believes that people still have good in them. And she comes out with the phone. Hey, I got the police on the phone. You need to go back to that accident. You need to go back here. Only to hear that engine rev up and try to ram. And you hear the engine in the 911, you hear the scream.
I don't know, Evil Queen.
And yes, you're going to hear the screams turn from the calm person on the phone to somebody a little frantic. And if she gets up there close with that phone, lo and behold, guess who grabs her and tries to pull her in that car? Now, the witness will tell you, there's no gun pulled at that time. It's just a phone. She just wants them to talk here. Talk to them. They don't want to talk to you. They want you to go back. They want me to go back. But that's not what she found out. And she found a very valuable lesson that a lot of people already know. Don't ever walk upon somebody in a car where they're trying to leave the scene of the accident or just leave. You don't know what you're going to find. You don't know what's behind that wheel. You don't know what's in that car. Well, she didn't know what was in that car. There's a lot of things in that car. A lot of things that shouldn't be in that car. They're going to show you pictures of a knife. They're going to show you pictures of a chain or a small, a small saw. Work tools that can be used aggressively to cause substantial, serious, immediate harm. But at that point, she's not thinking about that. She's shocked that the guy grabbed her when he's just trying to hand the phone or let the phone see that the police are on it to talk to him. And upon grabbing her, it's pulling her into the car. And you will see pictures. And you will hear testimony. And you will see scratches all over her neck. Scratches on the back of her head. All these bruises on her face. You're going to see those. These are evidence that are going to come in. These pictures were taken right after the incident. And you're going to see her shirt just ripped completely wide open. And she's there trying not to expose herself. So yeah, she did go put a hoodie on because it was exposing herself. And you'll see this shirt. You'll see the rip. You'll see the pictures of him trying to pull her in the car. And she's screaming, get out of the car. Get off of me. Get out of the car. She doesn't let him know she has a gun. And his response, or something that we probably shouldn't say if somebody says they have a gun.
Looks like she's crying back there.
Nonetheless, as she's trying to get back from the
She's
car.
definitely a
And
very
she's pushing
young,
and she's
scared
screaming.
girl.
You'll see the marks on her knees where she's up on her tippy toes to get pulling. She's trying to use her knees to get back. And he's leaning in there trying to grab something. And you'll be able to see the contents of what was in that vehicle. And you'll be able to use your common sense and your experience when you see it to see, what was about to happen, what was going to happen, what may have been said. But nonetheless, she does go to pull the gun. As she's being pulled from this side into the vehicle, and she's being pulled from this side, trying to get her gun. Bam, there's another handgun. And you will see pictures. You'll see a quick video that shows what happened. But when you slow it down and you look at the still shots, you're going to see what happened. And you're going to hear the forensic examiner and the forensic of the gun prints come in.
Interesting scenario.
Said this
She
gun,
chases him down and now
which
claims that
is
he
a
was pulling her into the
9mm
car.
a Springfield, that's notorious for not having the shell
Hey,
jammed.
Justin. Good to see you.
But yet in this case, that spent shell is jammed in that gun. And as the state pointed out to you, there's male DNA all over the top of it. As this gun is being pulled back and pushed back at her.
But it wasn't
And
conclusive
they're
as
screaming
his.
and frantically pulling and bam, this gun goes off. And you see her grab that phone and immediately, oh my God. He just pulled the trigger on my gun and shot himself. We need an ambulance. We need the EMT out here. Please, we need the EMT. As witnesses walk around, talking, asking questions, she's continuously saying, where's the ambulance? There's one right there. Get an ambulance here. He just shot himself. She has no malice intent. She's never seen anything like that. 21 years old.
It's possible that they
She
overcharged.
knows somebody's hurting and they need an ambulance. And then you're going to hear the forensics. And the forensics are going to come in and tell you the projection of that bullet. And what they say, the witnesses,
Hey, Shift.
is you just walk up, pow, and shot him.
Good vibes.
There's going to be a projection. There's going to be an angle. There's going to be a direction these bullets are going into. And you would presume if she's driving, she's right here. If he's grabbing, the projection's going to be left to right. But move it. If what they're saying is right, but you're going to hear the forensic examiner come in and say, now this bullet is stuck at close range. It's not way over here pointing. It's at close range. And it's at an angle slightly right to left. Because when the gun is grabbed and turned back, that's the angle it is. That's why the male DNA is on the top of the gun. That is why you see her pull her arm back when it goes off. Because it's being twisted to a point. And he's trying to shoot somebody or shoot her.
She brought a gun
It's
to a
not
knife
just struggling
fight.
with the gun. It's an angle of the gun that's being pointed. As he grabbed her and started pulling her in, and the weapon is pulled out and it's pointed and shot. And then she immediately grabs the phone. Like I said, this is attractive.
Right now, Justin?
People that have been around, that have driven that road, that know, they don't walk up on cars trying to talk to them civilly and say, hey, here's the police. And that was a learning experience to show them the person had to find out. That doesn't constitute murder. That doesn't constitute having all these charges put on her. She told from the very get-go, immediately, not thinking about what can I say or what should I say. She picked up that phone immediately and told him, my God, he just shot himself with my gun. We need an ambulance. If somebody's maliciously trying to kill you, they're going to ask for an ambulance? They're going to pick up the phone and say, hey, let me walk over here and talk to you a little bit. You know, she immediately picks up, screams ambulance. And she says it numerous times when the police are talking to her, when she's talking to the witnesses, and everybody's just in shock. But they all agree. They need an ambulance. And as it was discussed
In
earlier,
Texas?
there obviously was some kind of a traffic or some kind of a delay. It took a while. took a while to get that ambulance out. The second they got there, those EMTs jumped on it, started working on him, talking to him, still breathing, making sure he's okay, trying to get him out of that vehicle, get him to the hospital. And unfortunately, when he gets there, he didn't make it. So as I said, this is a tragedy.
Oh,
But I implore you, if I would listen to all the facts. That's all I want you to do, listen to all the facts. They have not been given so far. And my job as an attorney is to try to bring out as many facts as I can so that you have the full picture. Because I anticipate sometime in this trial, you're going to hear verdicts. And you're going to hear, we want you to come to a verdict. And verdict is Latin. We're seeking the truth. But if evidence is not presented, or it's curtailed or taken away, or left out or manipulated to not give you the full truth, then verdict means seeking a conviction. And at what cost, and at what expense, and what is left out. So I am going to keep your eyes, ears, look at it, use your experience, listen to the forensics, listen to what they're saying.
yikes.
Sit back and visualize and use your own experience. Could this happen? Is this true? How could somebody do something malicious? And look for a motive. What kind of motive? Motive. Well, they didn't like the driver. I didn't like the driver so they could shoot somebody. Well, people at 21, they don't want to shoot anybody. They don't want to get involved, really. They want to just get on YouTube and go viral. But not this day. She just tried to help out. She followed what the correction officer told her to
This
do.
is scary as shit,
She
man.
followed what 911 said you do. And at that time, when they said, all right, stop. She's already engaged. She doesn't think something like this is going to happen.
It's on the
She
campus.
believes that if you put a phone up there and it's the police, you're going to talk to them or at least respect their authority. And on this day, it wasn't respected. It was knocked out of her hand. And the other hand grabbed her and started pulling her in the car. And some will give accounts of what he said, I got something for you, bitch, or get in here, I've got you, or screaming. And that's when the profanity's going back and forth. I'm not saying it's not going to be screaming back and forth. But what you hear in these 911 tapes, what you hear going on, there's only one conclusion we can come to. And that's that she was following. As naive as it may be, and some may even say as dumb as it may be, her intentions were good.
This
She
is
followed
horrible.
the direction of authority. And if she followed it, it put her in a situation she'd never been in. And at the result of it, she did the only thing a caring individual would do. We're all human, no matter what. No matter gender, color, race, we're all human. And the only humane thing to do when somebody is shot is try to get help or try to get an ambulance. And that's what she did. As for the proximate cause of the death, and once again, it's a tragedy. So we can look at it and look at all that. But look at all that occurred. Look at what you got to listen to and what you got to make a decision to. Because I believe if we can get all this evidence in, that I've seen, if we can get all this evidence in, and I don't think we are, if we can get it all in, you're going to be able to make the right decision. And the right decision, not only can you look at the state when you make that decision, but you can look at Hannah Payne in the eye too. And you can know right here and right here, you made the right decision based on the evidence you heard, based on the evidence you saw, based on the experience and knowledge you have. So I welcome you to sit and listen to all this evidence. I will try my best to bring in as much as I can. There will be some objections. There'll be some stuff taken out, which probably going to go. Why was that taken?
Judge, I'm going to object to that comment. That's an absolutely inappropriate comment. As you just instructed this jury, their job is to not consider evidence that was properly excluded because it doesn't comport with the rules of evidence. And so his encouragement to consider what I object to and to consider what's excluded is highly inappropriate. And I would ask that that the jury be instructed to disregard that comment and that counsel be instructed to not make any such further inappropriate comments.
And Your Honor, I would say I'm not referring to what we had a conference about. There's going to be other issues that are just not there. And the jury has the right to sit back and say, why isn't it there? I'm not specifically saying the one that we had it, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that's not there. And they're to use their knowledge and experience to understand if they carry their burden beyond a reasonable doubt. And evidence not being presented helps them in that decision.
So I'm going to sustain the objection and instruct you not to engage in that, Attorney Tucker.
Engage in missing evidence.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I apologize. But you'll have enough to see. You'll have your own experience, your own knowledge. You'll get to make your decision based on what you see and what you know. I feel comfortable that when you see all this and you hear it all, there's no audacity. There's no somebody being malicious. It's a situation that somebody very young got put in, following the direction of authority, that by the grace of God, she's alive to say today. And I don't want to take away from the tragedy of the loss, because it is. But I do want you to look at how it came to be. And if somebody has committed malice murder, or felony murder, or false imprisonment, this is a young girl doing what she was told to do, and you will hear the evidence. And I won't take any more of your time because I'm ready to get in that evidence. Thank you so much. And at the end of the trial, as I said, no matter what decision you come to, be able to look at the state, be able to look at my client, say he made the right decision. And I believe once the evidence is done, you'll be able to do that and let her know she's not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Tucker. Is the state ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Judge.
She doesn't look entirely happy about that.
Hearing,
Let's move forward.
you swear or affirm the testimony you will give before the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. All right, I'm just going to ask you to project into that mic so that
Introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Vicki Lynn Herring,
Can you spell all three of your names?
VICKIELYNNHERRING.
And are you related to Kenneth Herring?
Yes,
And how were you related to Kenneth Herring?
I'm his baby sister.
When was Kenneth born?
1956.
Okay.
Yes,
This lady is
And how
so
much
nervous.
older was he than you?
I was born in 1963
And where did y'all grow up?
in Norman Park, Georgia.
In the time that you spent around Kenneth, were you ever aware of any medical conditions that Kenneth had?
I know that he was a diabetic, severely.
Were you aware of any type of medications or anything that he had to do in order to manage his severe diabetes?
He was insulin dependent.
And when you talk about insulin dependent, are we talking about pills or injections?
He was on injections at the time.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
yes, you may.
Showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes,
And how do you recognize that?
that is my brother.
And is this a photograph that you provided to the DA's office so that the jury would be able to see what Mr. Herring looked like in life?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a fair and accurate photograph of your brother?
Yes.
And at this time, the state tenders State's Exhibit Number 1.
Okay, admitted without objection.
And we would request the opportunity to display, which is being displayed. Those are all the questions that I have for Ms. Herring.
Okay,
You
thank
can
you.
take that down.
Attorney Tucker, any cross-examination?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think they're wanting to prove that the things that he had in his car were not weapons.
Ms. Herring, my
That
condolences
should
to you for
be-
your loss. My name is Matt Tucker. I'm the attorney for Ms. Payne over here. And I just have a few questions to ask. What kind of work was Mr. Herring in?
At the time, he was doing some odd jobs.
Okay. Did he wear a suit all the time? I saw the picture of him in a suit. Did he wear a suit all the time, or did he wear kind of work clothes?
He wore work clothes when he worked.
Okay. And did he do a lot of work out of his car? Did he have a bunch of tools and I guess things to assist him in his job?
He may have, yes.
Okay. You weren't familiar with what was in his truck?
I was not there at the time. I didn't know what was in his truck at the time.
And I don't have to just restrict it to that time. Did you ever see his truck?
I know that truck because it belonged to my father.
Okay. So, but you didn't know the contents, what was in the truck, correct? You just knew it was your father's truck passed down.
I didn't know what was in the truck at the time.
What do you have in the truck other times? Do you know?
And Judge, what's the relevance of what he would have in his truck on any day other than the one that we're talking about here?
Your Honor, there's going to be a lot of items and pictures that are shown. I just want to know how long those items were in the truck, if people had knowledge of it being in the truck prior to that day.
Okay, I'm going to.
Yeah, I agree, Evil Queen.
Sustain the objection and ask you to move on in terms of the questions, because I don't find it relevant.
Okay. You stated that you knew he was diabetic, correct?
That is correct.
Did he have one of those EpiPens that they would use to inject insulin or to assist if he was having a flare-up or diabetes?
This is
sugar, high
interesting.
sugar?
The article
I have
says
not
that
seen
he
one.
didn't
I
alert the
have
office
seen him
the
use
court.
a needle.
Okay.
that he
Did
had
you
a
ever
stroke.
assist him with that needle?
I did not.
Did he ever say he had problems injecting with that needle or any needles?
He never disclosed any to me.
Okay. And he never said anything about an EpiPen that would be kind of the alternative of taking a needle out and injecting himself?
I never discussed it with him in depth.
Okay. So but you said you knew he had diabetes.
I do.
And were you there at a doctor's appointment when the doctor disclosed, or did he disclose it to you, or?
He disclosed it to me. Yes.
And he never once talked about the EpiPen versus an injection.
He did not have that discussion with me.
Okay. And
Just
how many
feels
times you
like
see
a
him,
cruel line of questioning.
using or doing an injection?
I saw him on a couple occasions.
Okay. Do you know how much he had to inject into him, or?
I do not, and I never asked.
I'm trying to find out the amount.
Well, let me allow Chief Assistant to make the objection.
And I didn't, I stopped.
Okay,
Based on her answer.
okay.
So you weren't that familiar with these injections, you just knew that he had done them from time to time, correct?
Yes.
And you weren't present at the doctor's appointment when he was diagnosed with this or told how to handle the injections?
No.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, any redirect from the state?
No, Judge,
Okay, may this witness step down?
we're requesting that she be excused so
Okay.
that she may remain in the courtroom.
Okay. Any
There's no
objection?
objection, as we
Okay.
discussed earlier.
So you're excused and you may remain in the courtroom.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, the suspect in the shooting has been located and is deceased.
The state may call its next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Terry Robinson.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony that you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you may have a seat. Pull yourself up to the microphone. If you feel comfortable, can you remove your mask and talk clearly into the microphone so the court reporter can take down your testimony? If you don't feel comfortable, then just make sure you speak clearly into the microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Terry Robinson, Terry Robinson.
And Mr. Robinson, what is your current
Welcome.
occupation?
I work with the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Apparently, there's still.
And what do you do
victims,
for the
though.
Georgia Department of Corrections?
I work in infirmary operations, securing inmates, managing those particular things that operations what we have for the state of Georgia.
Okay, and you stated you work in the infirmary. Can you give us kind of your duties and responsibilities and what your day-to-day would look like in that role?
Well, in that particular role, what we do is manage making sure that the offenders are taken care of when they come into our facilities. We're generally something like a hospital, but making sure the operations are management, making sure that these particular offenders are taken care of. That's basically it, by watching over them and keeping them secure.
Okay, do you work closely with any of the nurses in these facilities?
Of course,
And what are your duties as far as the nurses are concerned?
making sure they're safe, making sure that nothing takes place with them, watching them as they manage placement and give out medical or assisting the offenders as needed.
Okay, have you ever been involved with inmates who are having medical conditions?
Yes, all the time. I mean, basically, when they have certain things, when they happen with them, we call the nurses down to make sure that see after them and everything. Basically, just making sure that the nurses are aware and that the doctors come down to just as well.
And have you had the opportunity to just observe the inmates when they're either diagnosed with certain conditions or being treated for certain conditions?
We pay attention to that, but basically, just when they're saying that this particular offender has this particular disease or either something's taking place with that particular offender, and that's about it. But we don't diagnose it. I'm not a medical. I just make sure that, making sure that the nurses and doctors are secured.
And how long have you worked in that role with the Georgia Department of Corrections?
8 years.
And have you had the occasion to observe patients who were diagnosed with diabetes?
Yes, we have.
And have you observed what physical manifestations may occur in the event that someone with diabetes may be having a particular condition or episode?
When they're going on a certain shock or something like that, and basically we did see how they get seizures and stuff of that nature and stuff, but other than anything else that's severe, mostly the nurses are there to help them give them medication before they go into that certain stage. But if they go into a certain thing, we observe like some of them may have like yellow eyes, glassy eyes of that nature stuff, or having a diabetic a shock or something like that.
Now, are you currently post-certified?
Yes, I am.
And were you post-certified on May 7th of 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, were you on duty on May 7th, 2019?
No, ma'am. I was off duty. That was one of my off days. I was off.
So you weren't in uniform?
No, ma'am.
Now let's talk about an incident that you witnessed that occurred on May 7th of 2019. Did you witness a vehicle collision on May 7th, 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did that collision occur?
Clark Howell and Forest Parkway.
And is that location in Clayton County?
Yes.
And are you familiar with that area?
Yes, I am.
And how often would you say you've driven in that area?
Plenty of times. Before the fifth one-way came, I've been in Atlanta mostly 38 years. So, yes.
And do you recall why you were in that area that day?
Heading home. Unfortunately, I was leaving Camp Creek, but there was an incident on 285. I avoided 285, came across, got on highway. Came on Interstate 85, worked my way around. There was another incident on Riverdale Road, Upper Riverdale Road. Worked my way around towards the airport, where the cargo area is, and that's when I took Clark Howell, because they were saying 75, 85. There was an accident over there, so I worked my way around to come down to Clark Howell.
So the traffic conditions were just really horrible on that day.
It was weird. I never seen 3 accidents in one day, but that was taking place and happening.
Now, did you witness the entire
That must have been
incident that
crazy to
occurred?
watch
Yes, ma'am.
and probably traumatic.
Now, can you tell us what happened during that vehicle collision on Clark Highway and Forest Parkway?
As we were approaching, the light was green. The vehicles were turning to the left, and the truck I know was turning right. All of a sudden, I seen this maroon vehicle come, bam, hit the side of the truck. It lifted up, came to a stop. When I was approaching, coming down, I saw the maroon vehicle, and I saw the gentleman kind of slumped over a little bit. That's what made me pull over to see if he was okay. Then when I got a car, that's when I asked the gentleman, "Is he okay?" And then the truck driver came up next, and then we just basically making sure the gentleman's okay. That's when I called 911.
All right, so just to be clear, can you describe the vehicles that were actually involved in the collision, what they looked like in their color?
Like I said, it was a white 18-wheeler truck. I don't know what the name, I forget the name of the truck, but the company, but the maroon vehicle. And I seen the Jeep, and there was another, I think there was another car. I think it was a white car on the other side.
So what vehicles actually collided during that incident?
The actually collided was the maroon vehicle and the semi truck.
All right, so you got out of your vehicle, and tell me what specifically you did once you pulled your vehicle over.
Again, once I pulled over, I went to the driver who was in the maroon vehicle and asked whether he was okay. He really confused, dazed. I was looking at him. I said, "Well, do you need any help in assistance?" That's when I called 911, asking if he needed help. And he said, "What happened?" I said, "Sir, you okay?" He said, "Well, what happened? What happened?" I said, "Sir, you was in a car wreck incident." And then that's when again, like I said, the other driver came up and said, "Is he okay?" He was okay. I said, "Well, let's see if I get in a bus here. You need an ambulance." And that's when I said was recorded on a 911 call. That's when I asked for assistance.
Now, when you made contact with the driver in the maroon truck, what were your observations of him physically?
Physically, the scene that he was, again, out of it. Like I said, I noticed his eyes were a glassy effect. Again, and again, not being a professional, a doctor or anything, just saying that was he going through a diabetic situation or whatever. I didn't smell any alcohol on him of that sort, but I just noted that the gentleman was, out of it.
So you didn't smell any alcohol?
No, I did not.
All right, after you checked on the victim or the driver in the maroon truck, what did you do? Did you check on anyone else?
Just checked on everybody, make sure everything's fine. I noticed Miss the other young lady who was driving the Jeep. Asked her if she was okay. She said she was okay because her vehicle went up on the ramp side. And other drivers, they were okay when some of them just left the scene because he avoided hitting him. So the only one checking on was her and the truck driver.
Okay, I'm going to hand you what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 2. Are you familiar with that area?
Yes.
And how are you able to be familiar with that area?
Travel that way a lot. Travel that way, like I said, when making delivery of 7585, take this way to travel out. So yes, I'm familiar with this area.
And is that the area where the incidents would have occurred?
This incident right here, this is Forest Parkway, Penis Boulevard. This
I'm
is
just like
where
2 minutes behind
when I
in the
came up,
video,
when I
so I
left
try
the
to
scene that's further down the way.
catch
across
up when there's
Highway
little
and
pauses.
Forest Parkway. That's when I came up and asked what took place and happened because I just seen the scene, and I said, something took place with that.
You would have traveled that route to get to that location.
Yes, I had to come from Clark Howell heading west to get to this location because this is the corner where the McDonald's is, and this is 285 right here.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, the state would move State Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection? Okay, admitted without objection.
It's just an enlarged photo of the map that was just submitted into evidence, the State Exhibits 2.
Okay, admitted without objection.
And yes, ma'am, we're going to see this. There's always places.
Incident of the vehicle accident.
I would have came from this direction right here, heading again west to this location on this one. I would have came from west, heading from east, heading west this way.
All right, thank you.
My name was heavily
And now we're
damaged.
completely caught up.
Radiator fluid, oil, water was leaking out. As I observed, and everything was heavily damaged to the front.
Was the vehicle operable?
At the time, it wasn't because it was off. But we see it happen that he was able to turn it on and leave the scene. Because I was thinking that as me and the truck driver, this vehicle is not going anywhere. Because after seeing all that on the floor, on the grounds right there, I assumed that, hey, the vehicle was disabled.
Okay, and you stated you did call 911.
Yes, we did. Yes, I did.
All right, and Mr. Robertson, how many times did you call 911 this day?
Twice.
Okay, I'm showing you what has been marked, previously marked as State Exhibit 3. Do you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you recognize it to be?
The recording of the 911 call.
And have you listened to those 911 calls?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you know that this disc is specifically 911 calls that you listen to?
Because I initialed it right here.
And was the 911 call you listened to accurate as to what the call was on that day?
Of that day, yes.
And Your Honor, state would like to move State Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection?
Assuming that as soon as it starts, it's his voice and it's about his 911. No.
Okay, admitted without objections.
Your Honor, permission to publish?
Yes.
My main impression of this girl is that she just looks extremely scared. And like she just got in way over her head. She had no idea what she was doing. So she shouldn't have had a gun. I mean, geez. Everybody has a right to have a gun, but should We are all caught up, so I can't forward anymore. I keep looking for updates on the shooting, but if, for specific number of victims, but there's no update on the number of victims. Some reports have said 28 people shot. Oh, this is the 911 call.
Unfortunately, get a vehicle, and I'm looking at the guy now. He's pretty good. He's moving and everything. But we had a truck that had an incident with a vehicle. Talk Howell and Forest Park.
What kind of truck is it?
It's a semi-tractor trailer and it's a pickup truck.
A red Dakota?
Yeah, red Dakota.
Okay, does this get it? You want to start at third?
Sir, do you need assistance? Do you need an ambulance? Sir. It's okay. You need an ambulance, system? He's not saying anything. Sir, you okay? Yeah.
Okay, is he saying
No,
ambulance or no?
it's hard for the families to hear this.
You need an ambulance, okay? Well, I mean, you hit this, well, are you okay?
We have police now out, but this,
That's not where we're at. I'm a state officer. I work for the CDC. So, yeah, that's 540.
isn't, did you hear that?
Give it, sir. Give it, sir.
He's really struggling. Oh,
Now, see that.
such terrible sounds.
Secretary with her. And he was, the car swerving in. You know, they know what happened. He fell asleep. So you need to be into that. Don't start it. Smoking.
It sounds like he went into a diabetic coma.
Are they obstructing the roadway?
I saw from when I saw it coming out, I saw the car coming. So it was and then I think the light was green. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have to stop it. We're gonna be out now.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We'll apologize for that.
No, that's okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Robinson, why did you continually ask for an ambulance during this 911 call?
Concerned about the victim. He was out of it, back and forth, and like I say, he was, his eyes, the way he was carrying on, how he was looking and everything, I was concerned. And I felt like I need to have an ambulance there to observe him.
Okay, and after you made that 911 call, what other observations did you have of the victim?
Well, he got the truck. He walked around the vehicle and everything. He was walking around the vehicle, just making sure that, just walking around. But he didn't, make the attempt and do anything strange at that time, well, I can recall. And that was basically it. He was just walking around. And I was talking to the other person, on the truck driver, and talking to the young lady there. And that was basically it. And we were just waiting for CP Clayton County to appear, or something. Clayton County or either ambulance to come.
Now, after you made the first 911 call, did you have any other communications or conversation with Mr. Herring?
When he started to get, what he got, like he was, well, I'm sorry, he got back into the truck. When I called, he got back into the truck, and I said, "Well, sir, you okay?" Like that, and he said, "I'm ready to go." Like I said, "Sir, you can't go anywhere. Can't go anywhere." He was in an incident. You can't leave the scene like that. And after that, he just, just sitting there, still talking to them. And all of a sudden, he turned on the vehicle. And I was like, "Well, sir, you can't do anything. You can't move. You can't move." And that's when he put it in drive. And floored it. And I was like shocked. I said, well, oh, this vehicle moving. I thought it was disabled. And thinking in my mind, I should have took the keys. That came in my mind. Across, I should have took the keys and stopped. But again, just thinking that the vehicle be disabled, it would have been able to drive off. But right there, that happened.
And once Mr. Herring got back in the vehicle, when did you make the second call to 911?
After that's when he again waiting for them to come and everything, and saying, hey, they, what's taking them so long? I understand this incident's taking place, but what's taking so long? And then that's when between that time when I made that phone call, that's when he accelerated off.
Now, how much time had passed between the first 911 call and your second 911 call?
It was like way over 20 minutes because we was trying to figure what's taking so long.
Wow. Oh God, that's
Now,
awful.
did the defendant and Mr. Herring ever speak
20
or
minutes?
communicate with each other while they were on scene?
No, she was standing over there by the truck driver. She had communication with him, just talking to him right there. They did make conversation.
And did you secure the area, the scene, to keep people separate and apart?
Well, basically, when I told them who I was and everything, just saying I was off-duty officer, state officer, and that was it. Basically, I'm here, just waiting for just here to help and wait for assistance to come in. Basically, we're asking for Clayton County or either the ambulance to come from that. But everybody was standing where they were. They would she or he was not near his the driver.
So they never exchanged words?
No, not at all.
All right, I'm going to play your second 911 call.
I mean, it just goes to show how taxed the first responders are in these big cities, that it would take so long to get there. I guess it was a big traffic day, they were saying. A really heavy traffic day. Yes, Justin, it was horrifying.
The reason why I'm asking that is the driver who caused the
And we still don't know why that guy did that.
Something's going on with him.
Completely a mystery.
We're trying to tell him to turn his vehicle off on the road, and he's not following commands. So that's why I'm asking to see what it does. He's moving his vehicle. He's trying to drive off, man. He's driving off. He's driving off. Take this, drive like quick. He's driving off. He's driving off. And he headed towards Riverdale Road, Upper Riverdale Road. That's what he said. He's in the red zone. Get out the road, sir. Get out the road. Hurry up.
What's that number?
Randy Cole, I'm front end damage to his Randy Cole. Did you get a picture of the driver's license tag?
Poor guy's just trying to do the right thing.
He's headed towards Riverdale Road, heading towards 285 area. Riverdale Road. He's heading heading west on Forest Parkway towards the area. Okay, good. Go. Now the other driver who was and he's going to take a picture of the yeah, he's fled. He's an African. Two vehicles. His vehicle and the truck. Truck is still here. Driver truck is still here. So step on the road. Just step on the road. So he's in a red Dakota.
Trying to
96 model, 97 model. He has all the black gentlemen, gray hair.
Trying to convey information and keep citizens.
I knew you were going to do something. If I was in uniform, I wouldn't think it's serious, but I did.
Okay. Anyway.
He's heading towards that area. If we get bring him up that way, I knew the traffic, I knew it was that range opening, and there's another officers on that film. RHA 5933. Very well. RHA 5933. RHA 5933.
I got it. Robert Henry Adams, 5933.
Yes. It's okay. She got it. She got it. It's all good. Yeah. The hoping is the lady in the Jeep was almost in the residence, so she turned around and she went after him. So she's gonna take a picture of the vehicle and stuff. Can't you believe I knew he was something wrong with it, guy. I knew it. Crazy. Yeah. But he's not gonna get far. The truck's gonna overheat. His truck is gonna overheat. Okay, ma'am, you have my number. Anything, y'all can get me back, but I'm here with the driver of the truck, the semi truck, and everything. So my number, you have it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, Mr. Robinson, when you stated, take a picture of the tag, who were you talking to?
I was talking to the driver, the Jeep driver.
And do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And can you describe her by an article of clothing? Well, can you describe them by article of clothing they're wearing, identify where they're sitting in the courtroom?
They're sitting over to my right. She has long brunette hair, and she has a blouse on with a cross.
All right, let the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant in open court. Now, when you contacted 911, where was the defendant physically at that time?
Hey, she was standing off to the side. I mean, she was just standing off to the side over there, just really by herself, standing to the side.
Now, when Mr. Herring got in his vehicle, where was the defendant physically standing? Or
Again.
where was she?
Again, standing up to the side. She was over there towards her vehicle and just standing to the side.
Now, when Mr. Herring began to drive off, where was the defendant physically?
I didn't, at first, I didn't observe where she was at then. I was focusing on him where he was going. And then all of a sudden I seen her vehicle coming to the side. And then that's, again, it's a yes, go get his tag, get his tag, get his tag. And I was telling her, get his tag, take a picture of his tag.
So was the defendant already in her vehicle
Yes,
when you told her to take a picture of the tag?
yes, she was moving, yes.
Okay, I'm putting this report up, but it
Now,
is just
outside
scanner
of what we
reports,
hear
so
on the
don't
second 911 call,
take it to heart. This is
did
not
you
fact,
specifically tell the
but
defendant?
there may have been
to
two
pursue
shooters and one may be
Herring?
female.
To pursue, well,
They
again,
said
told her
the
to go
shooter
take
is
the tag.
dead though,
So you
so
did tell her to.
No, I didn't tell her to apprehend.
people
or
still need to be
cause
sheltering in
to,
place.
Stop the vehicle to show to get a picture of the tag. Because at the time we didn't have, I didn't have a picture of the tag.
This is per scanner reports. We don't know if this is true, but I just want to put this up here.
So did you tell the defendant to stop Mr. Herring's vehicle if she was able to catch up to him?
No,
Did you tell the defendant to use whatever means, including deadly force, to stop Mr. Herring from getting away?
no.
Now, did an officer ultimately arrive to the incident location?
Yes.
Now, do you know how soon the officer arrived after the defendant left the scene?
It had to be like, if I can recall, at least another 10 minutes. give or take 8 to 10 minutes, because that's when he rolled up, and he said, and I noticed a black vehicle heading fast, SUV heading fast towards
That's a
towards
picture of the
Culper, heading
shattered
in the same
glass at
direction,
Beam Hall.
the Riverdale Road. And then he said, there was an incident down there. I said, well, I'm going down here. I'm gonna drive down there to see if they caught up with the person and everything, because I know the vehicles were coming fast. So I did, and that's when I drove down there, and I seen the commotion, and I got up, I parked my vehicle over towards McDonald's. I said, what happened? What happened? They said, she shot her. I said, who shot who?
Your response, 8800.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, I will sustain the objection and the jury will disregard the hearsay. Do you have cross-examination? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. The jury, they've been sitting for a while. I'm gonna give a quick break and then allow you to do the cross-examination. So it's 4:15. Again, I know some of you.
While
have
they're
chat
taking a
their,
break, I'm gonna
arrangements to
jump
come in
over to
place. I'm gonna
X,
give you
and
opportunity to do that.
as much as I
Since
don't
we're
like
even
X,
here, past 5 o'clock.
we're gonna look at it
And
for
I'm gonna go ahead and it's now 4:15.
updates.
Just be back at approximately 4:35. Thank you.
And I may start an afternoon stream. I may start an afternoon stream about this. But let's look at some updates from X. Hold on a moment. So, yeah. Let me make sure you can see this. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to leave it up, Evil Queen. I'm just not sure if I'm going to do a afternoon stream yet or not on this case. But here's some footage from the from today.
Que había una persona en la escuela con una pistola. Sí. Lo vas a hacer después.
Prieto. ¿Cómo se llamaba? Moreno.
De Romeo.
Let's see. Here's some scenes from. Now, this report, it's from France, says that there are 5 to 10 victims. I don't know. That's not a confirmed number. So but there's a very, very big police response there. This really sucks, man. Fucking sucks. Because I have 2 kids in college, and every time and many of us have kids in school, college, wherever, we just have kids, we have loved ones. This says, scanner listeners report hearing mention of 3 victims from the shooting. Seems likely that the count of 4, which some outlets are reporting, includes a shooter who police have confirmed is deceased. But there was one report that said there might be a second shooter still active. Let's go to some media here. There's somebody running. This says, so the police say the shooter is dead, but this eyewitness who has photos claims she saw the cops detain the shooter and place him in a vehicle. God, we just can't believe what random people say.
running super close.
And did you see anybody running at that point, or what did you see besides that?
I was one of the first people running.
It
I saw people
definitely
running, running,
does,
running,
just
run.
on.
And then for a second, people were like going outside. I was like, stop, stop, stop. There's a shooting, and no one believed in it. They're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And then we saw people running, and everyone was just going everywhere. And then boom, it was cleared out in a second. Because I had like windows of the outside, and everything was just gone. And then I saw them get a guy and put him on the floor, and I thought it was okay. And then I was hearing more shots after that, and that's when I went in the basement.
What did you say? I'm sorry. What did you say about the person on the floor? What were you seeing?
At first, I heard the shots, and then I was waiting inside a building before I went in the basement, and I saw them grab a guy and take a big gun. And then I saw them put the guy in a car, so I was like, okay, it's over.
That may
And
not have been
I was like,
him.
okay, it's over.
That's the thing. She may not have known what she was seeing. Here, the kids walking out with their hands in the air. I mean, we're having to see this too much lately, you know? We saw this. I mean, that person, that looks like it could be a shooter running with a gun, or maybe it's the cops. See, we lay people, we don't know what the heck we're looking at. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream. Maybe be on the lookout for another live this afternoon for this continued trial. It's not super interesting so far. I mean, the premise is interesting, but not as much the arguments. I'm sort of into it, but it also looks like it's going to be kind of a quick trial. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, and I will see you on the next stream. Goodbye.